Hi, I'm Leslie Przybylek, and I'm Senior Curator at the Senator John Heinz History Center. And for Women's History Month, let's talk just a little bit about Ida Tarbell, who was a fascinating woman, both for what she accomplished and then for a position she took at the time that might seem more than just a little unimaginable to us today. Tarbell, who grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania and was a graduate of Allegheny College, became famous especially for a series of 19 articles that she published in McClure's magazine between 1902 and 1904 called The History of Standard Oil Company. It eventually became a book by the same title. And in this, Tarbell basically became the nation's first investigative journalist, using Senate records and interviews with people and archival documentation. She traced what she believed were the misdeeds of John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company. She was actually quite fair-minded. There were a lot of people who were swayed not by the fact that she was kind of against some of what Standard Oil was doing, but that she was relentless in detailing and picking apart the things they had done in a very objective manner. She even praised some of what John D. Rockefeller had accomplished, but said, here are these things that this company has done that are just something we cannot accept. And in the long run, the book, The History of Standard Oil, really was one of the things that helped undo Standard Oil. The company is eventually broken up by 1911 by the federal government. Well, Tarbell lived an incredibly independent life. She traveled the country. She never married. She lived on her own sort of farmstead and, by our standards, lived what we would consider a modern existence. But surprisingly, Ida Tarbell was against women's suffrage. This drove the suffrage supporters just crazy. They couldn't understand it. Even her parents didn't understand this. But she was against it, and as her life went on, she also really became an advocate for women living a more conservative life. And so what was going on there? Well, some scholars really do think now that Tarbell was such a pioneer that she kind of left herself out in what we might call a no man's land. She hadn't fit with the journalists who were doing her work because most of them were men, and in her middle age, she looked back and realized that she really hadn't done things that maybe she wished she had done as a woman, but there was no map, there was no model, there was no path for Tarbell to follow. And so there are some people that feel that maybe later on in her life she'd had some regrets about how she had done certain things and was advocating that other people follow a different course. She's a really interesting reminder for us of the cost that pioneers pay for things that we now celebrate, but sometimes they ended up in a place that they weren't sure they would have chosen to be. So she's a really fascinating figure, and she's worth considering for Women's History Month. Thanks for watching.